SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, the latest news is all about major roster shakeups. If you wear purple and gold, this one stings. There is real talk about cutting big names just to fit under the salary cap. There is a lineman trying to break out of the injury cycle. There is a beloved veteran turning into off-season trade currency. There is a defensive icon leaving his future hanging in the air. And the biggest one, behind-the-scenes smoke that could change everything. And a quick message before we dive in. Subscribe to the channel and drop a comment with what moves you expect this season. Here is the deal. We are looking at the 2026 cap, and it feels like, who is even left for the fight? The team is estimated to be about $46 million over the limit. That is not a small thing. It changes everything going into March free agency. It even changes how you build the roster for the entire year. Now the names are getting tossed on the table. First up are Ryan Kelly and Javon Hargrave as very real-cut candidates. But the conversation got heavier when two offensive pieces landed in the same pile. TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones. Notice what that means. This is not saving a few bucks. This is moving people who impact games in the locker room. Kelly would carry a big cap hit with not much guaranteed. Cutting him creates space. But then you start worrying about protection and the heart of the line. Then you look at Hargrave and the number is massive. And let's be real, he has not delivered what the purple and gold crowd imagined when he got here. Cutting him hurts with dead money, but it also gives you real breathing room. The one that truly hits, though, is Hawkinson. After that torn ACL on Christmas Eve of 2023, he has not been the same route nightmare. Before, he was a constant target. After, he became a guy you keep waiting to explode, and sometimes it just does not happen. And his contract is the kind that corners you. This is the kind of stands-level Vikings fan read you do not get from a cold headline. There is even a post-June 1st window to ease the cap hit. But that means you are choosing to live without him. And what about Aaron Jones? Star-level cap hit for 2026. But he is 31 now, and the body is starting to charge a toll. He contributes in the passing game. He helps the culture. He is respected. But paying him like a true bell cow when the team is already up against the wall, that is tough. Let me be blunt. I can see the Vikings trying to restructure Jones before they straight up pull the trigger on a release. If he agrees to bring the number down, he stays. If he does not, the cap makes the call. There was even a former player on the radio saying 0% that Hawkinson comes back. That sets off alarms, because that is not just bar talk. That is someone close to the building reading the signs. And there is the other path. Restructures. O'Neal and Cashman could get extensions and open space, and the team could convert base salary into bonus money for a bunch of guys, like Justin Jefferson, Greenard, Van Ginkel, Byron Murphy Jr., Josh Oliver, Darisaw, and Will Freeze. That is the classic push the bill to the future move. It helps now, but you pay later. So here is the question. Do you cut 4 names and get almost under the cap, or do you rework deals and keep more talent? Tell me in the comments which cut would make you the most furious today. And stay with me, because the next story is about a very expensive cornerstone the team cannot just toss aside. Sometimes the problem is not money at all. It is the body refusing to cooperate. And that is exactly what is hovering over the offensive line right now. The team bet big on a pillar, and they need to know he will be standing when the hits start flying. That brings us to Christian Darisaw. When he is on the field, you can feel the difference in the offense. Cleaner protection, more space in the run game. The pocket actually breathes. The Vikings saw him as a franchise left tackle, and they gave him that big extension, 4 years and $76 million in 2024. But since then, the story has flipped. Injury, cautious returns, snap counts, and in the end, more uncertainty. The frustrating part is the sequence. He was recovering from a torn ACL and MCL in the middle of 2024. He said himself he expected a full year to come back right. The team at times hinted he was ahead of schedule. He returned in week 3, but limited. And even after he hit the 1-year mark, it was the weekly, is he playing or not, routine. In December, they put him on injured reserve. That is not the kind of conversation that makes the purple and gold crowd relax. And the raw number is brutal. Since signing that deal, he has played 17 of 35 possible games. That is heavy, because nobody is questioning the talent. The issue is availability. And then Alec Lewis of The Athletic basically laid out the path. The next few months are about making sure 2026 is normal for him. If there is any doubt, Minnesota has to be aggressive at tackle, either through the draft or through free agency. But here's the crossroads. Cutting Darisaw is not a thing. The contract and the level he reaches when healthy will not allow it. But you also cannot look at Justin SKOL as a long-term answer. And paying for 2 starting caliber left tackles is expensive, especially with the cap already tightening. So what is left? A strong plan B. It could be a legit veteran swing tackle, someone who can step in without the offense collapsing. It could be spending early in the draft and living with the growing pains. And there is a chilling thought out there. If the team finds a reliable replacement, Darisaw could become trade bait for someone willing to take on the salary. It is not that the Vikings want it, it is that football sometimes forces your hand. And there is a side effect. The line directly affects J.J. McCarthy's growth. Without stable protection, the kid takes hits and loses rhythm. We have seen that movie in Minnesota, and it is not pretty. Bottom line, either Darisaw comes back in monster mode and shuts this down, or the front office has to move fast and spend real resources. And that tees up the next bomb, because there is another veteran on offense with a big price tag and a wide-open future. All right, let's talk about a guy a lot of people actually like. And it is not only about stats, it is about presence. When he is in the huddle, you can feel leadership in the offense, but the cap has no feelings. And the name at the center of this is Aaron Jones. Here is the setup. Jones is projected to carry one of the biggest cap hits among NFL running backs in 2026, and the Vikings are already squeezed. So the team has to decide whether to pay that price or change the contract. Alec Lewis of The Athletic made it clear that Jones and TJ Hawkinson are headed for serious internal conversations in the next few weeks. This is not fan rumor. This is the kind of topic that becomes closed-door meetings, and that is where the stands split right down the middle. Because Jones can still play. In the passing game, he helps a ton. In pass protection, he helps there too. But he is 31, and the body is starting to ask for receipts. He missed games with injury this season, and at the same time, Jordan Mason showed up with a higher yards per carry average. That changes perception, not because Mason is suddenly a superstar, but because it shows you can build a committee and survive. The problem is that Jones's contract is built like he is carrying the ball 20 times every week. And in reality, the best version of this offense might be split it to maximize it. Can you keep him? Sure. But at the current number, it gets tough. If a restructure happens, the whole vibe changes. And I will say it straight. I think this is the real test of Vikings culture. Convincing a leader to take less money requires belief in the plan. It requires him to believe this team is truly going to fight. Now, if he does not agree, there is a cold and very realistic path. The Vikings cut him. They save cap space. Jones takes his guaranteed money, and he hits the market for a short deal somewhere else. That happens all the time in the NFL. But when it is your team, it hurts more. Especially for the people who live and breathe Vikings football every single day. And you cannot look at Jones in isolation. The line is already full of question marks with Darisaw. The cap is tight, and the offense has to support McCarthy's development. So every dollar becomes a debate. I want your take without a fight. Tell me in the comments, would you restructure Aaron Jones to keep him here, or would you cut him and reinvest somewhere else? I want to see where the purple and gold crowd is leaning. Hold that energy, because the next story is about a name that is basically a Viking symbol. And when a symbol wobbles, the whole stadium feels it. There are certain things you feel before anyone confirms them. The stadium sound changes. Teammates hug differently. And if you have followed this team long enough, you know the signal. The name in the middle of it is Harrison Smith, the hitman, the guy who has carried eras in Minnesota. Even at 36, he still played at a high level in 2025. This was not nostalgia. This was football. He finished well-ranked among safeties with enough snaps to qualify. And he filled the stat sheet with tackles, pass breakups, interceptions, a forced fumble, and even a sack. He is the kind of player who does not need to flash on every snap for you to feel the control he brings. But that final game at US Bank Stadium felt like a goodbye. He subbed out in the final minutes. There was an ovation, there were hugs everywhere. It had that last game treatment you recognize instantly. And Jeremy Fowler of ESPN basically read it as a sign that retirement is coming. When the media picks up those details, it usually means the vibe is real. After the game, Smith said something that sounds simple, but hits hard. He said he is leaning one way, but he does not like saying never. So the door is not locked, but it is almost closed. And I will admit this without drama, it hurts a little. Because he is part of the identity for everyone who grew up yelling SKOL and watching the defense save the day on cold Sundays. And there is still the contract piece. Technically, he is under contract in 2026 on the second year of a short deal. If he plays one more season, the odds of it being in Minnesota would still be high. But that is up to him. Body, mind, family. It all matters. And look, if he steps away, I'm going to need a minute. Now, here is the other punch. Beyond Smith, there is another defensive piece the Vikings might not be able to hold on to. Brian Flores, the coordinator who transformed this unit. 3 seasons here and the defense became a real problem. Aggressive calls, pre-snap chaos, Offense is never feeling comfortable, but his contract is expiring, and he is going to have options. A head coaching interview for Baltimore is already on the radar, and even if a head coaching job does not happen, teams can still try to lure him as a defensive coordinator with money and a pitch. Kevin Seifert of ESPN pointed out that replacing someone at that level is a brutal task. So picture this: you could lose the veteran leader on the field, and at the same time, lose the brain on the sideline. That changes the DNA. That shakes everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. And that is why the next story gets even heavier, because it is not only Flores might leave, there is behind-the-scenes smoke, internal stuff, and it could turn into a real problem. I'm telling you, once behind-the-scenes whispers start leaking, I get cautious fast, because not everything goes public, but when it does, it is because someone inside is letting it slip. And right now, this situation involves Brian Flores in a way that should worry anyone who has been in these stands for decades. This is not only he might become a head coach. That alone would be enough to stress you out. What hit harder is the report that there is friction behind the curtain. People butting heads. A vibe that feels tense with others in the organization. And that opens a dangerous door. He could leave even on a lateral move, as a defensive coordinator somewhere else, if the relationship sours for good. The voice tied to this smoke is John Krawczynski, speaking on K-Fan with Dan Barreiro. He said that over the last few weeks, the temperature of the water has changed. Because before, a lot of people assumed that with his lawsuit against the league and how Miami ended, owners would not be eager to hand him another head coaching job. But suddenly, a real path started to appear with the Las Vegas Raiders. And the detail that turns heads: Tom Brady being involved in the conversation, with ideas about building a staff and everything. That alone is a headline. But the second part is the ugly one. Krawczynski said there are murmurs of discontent. He said things are not all good between Flores and the Vikings. He did not claim the exact reason. He admitted he does not have the specifics locked in, but he made the key point clear. It is not guaranteed Flores stays, even if he does not land a head coaching job. And he said that would be a disaster for the Vikings. It would also be a terrible look for the organization. So you ask yourself, is this drama or negotiation? It could be both. It could be Flores applying pressure for more money, or for more autonomy and security. It could be a personality clash. It could be a power struggle. In the NFL, ego and control are always in the air. But when the guy is the engine of your defense, you do not play games with it. And the purple and gold crowd knows what is at stake. A Flores defense is not just blitzing. It is identity. It is confusing the opposing quarterback. It is disguise. It is making average players look useful because they know exactly what to do. Losing that overnight would set you back multiple steps. Krawczynski also said he and Alec Lewis have been sniffing around this story for more than a week. That means people are asking questions. People are trying to connect the dots. And when good reporters start circling, it usually means something is there. Now, if this becomes real, the damage is not only tactical, it hits the locker room. Players feel internal conflict. And with the cap tight and tough roster decisions coming, adding coaching turmoil is how a season starts crooked. That is why I am saying it. This is the biggest story of the day, because it can change the direction of the team without a single snap. And from here, we have to tie all of this together into one clear picture, the way this fan base deserves. I'm going to be straight. This team is at a crossroads. The cap is tightening, and there are already heavy talks involving TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones. At the same time, Christian Darrisaw's future depends on his body responding, because without the line, the offense stalls. Then you look at the defense and you feel the ground shift. Harrison Smith might be closing a chapter that defined Minnesota. And if Brian Flores leaves, whether for a bigger job or because of internal noise, it changes the heart of the unit. Drop a comment. This space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go!